Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cartridge Chronicles. This is your host, Jeff Krause, along with PJ Lukashevsky.
Hi, everybody.
And I think an appropriate way to start off this episode is to say nothing else but
It's tail time.
today we are going to talk about a real nostalgic, I don't even know what I would call it. This is a game that has stuck with me over the years, even though weirdly as a kid, I don't know that it stuck with me so much then, but it's always just been there in my mind is something that I just remember growing up. And that's Gex 2, Enter the Gecko for the PlayStation 1. I know a lot of people might think it's kind of funny or interesting that I'm talking about a sequel, not necessarily the OG game, but Gex 2, which was released in 1998, Crystal Dynamics was the developer, Midway was the publisher, and this was just a game that I think my brother and I rented from Blockbuster at least 3 times, and just really, like I said, stuck with me over the years. Just to set the stage for anybody who's not familiar, Gex 2 is a game about a gecko. It's a platformer. Um, I will say right out of the gate, definitely takes a lot of inspiration from games like Mario 64, which had released 2 years prior. There was, for back in the 90s, late 90s, after Mario 64 released, and then not Banjo-Kazooie, Crash Bandicoot was right there alongside in a slightly different 3D platform style. There's a mad rush from other companies to make their own 3D platformer that had a mascot and they were hopeful would catch on the same way Mario and Sonic and Crash had. So this was Crystal Dynamics, throwing their hat in the ring. Gex 1 actually came out on the 3DO originally and then got ported to the PS1 and to the Saturn at the time. Gex 1, though, was a 2D side scroller, whereas Gex 2 comes into full 3D environments. And it even has, like, trying to emulate Mario 64, has a hub world where you go to different areas and it teleports you basically into levels, and there's objectives, and just again, you really could see see that entire inspiration from Mario 64 behind Gex 2. Gex is, you're a gecko, you run around and jump. You can do like kind of a double jump where you hold the jump down and he curls his tail and like hops off his tail for extra height. He can spin and smack things with his tail. And then there'll be kind of little like I don't know if they're little bugs that you'll find that can give you health, and he can like slurp them up with his tongue. Um yeah, this game though, the biggest unique piece to this, I mean, everything I've described so far probably sounds just like, okay, it's another 3D platformer with a mascot that, is just interesting things. But the biggest thing behind this also is they contracted, in the US anyway, with comedian Dana Gould. He was involved with The Simpsons as well. And as is the main writer for the game, Rob Cohen, was also a writer on The Simpsons. And they recorded over 700 voiceovers. Dana was the voice of Gex. And throughout the game, Gex just keeps saying stuff. Like, he doesn't really stop. And a lot of it is like, some of it is very contextual, and some of it's like you beat an enemy and he just starts throwing Austin Powers quotes out there. Yeah, it definitely adds a unique flair to this game that other platformers don't have. I would say playing this game in 2025, the voiceovers become very much a mixed bag. Some of them, like I said, like
Gecko chore, baby, yeah!
Austin Powers makes me laugh because I mean I definitely enjoyed those movies growing up, but some of them I'm like, I don't even know what he's referencing right now. Like, I mean, it was
The real estate wizardry of Tom Fu at work.
some of it was very much tied to like current pop culture and things like that, and
Nice robe, Mr. Hefner.
definitely is somewhat of a product of its time. And I want to be clear. So I've been playing this recently quite a bit. I was telling PJ before we start, I was telling you, man, like I've been playing they just released the Gex trilogy on Steam and Switch and Xbox and PlayStation. And it's all three games, Gex 1, 2, and 3. And uh but one thing they did, which is kind of cool, is they added widescreen. So you can play it on modern TVs without the, just the 4:3 ratio. And then they actually like tuned the controls to use the analog stick. So back in the day when this released, technically you could use analog sticks on the old the original DualShock controller for PS1, but the controls were limited to 8 directions. So even though you were using an analog stick, it was ultimately just emulating the inputs of a D-pad, as you would move the stick around. And which actually made it a little tough sometimes with the platforming because, in a platformer you want pretty fluid controls so you can kind of line up your jumps and all that kind of stuff. And this was a little limiting. So the limited run games who did the Gex trilogy released recently actually went in and baked in like true analog controls, which I will say I went back and played Gex 2, like the true PS1 version, and I played the re-release here, and yeah, the original controls were very more difficult to say the least in some instances. The other thing the re-release added as well was right stick camera. So back in the days when Gex and all these platformers, PS1, N64 days released, the N64 had one analog stick. They were still kind of feeling out, developers were still kind of feeling out how cameras would work with 3D environments. So in Gex 2, the native controls use L1 and R1 to spin the camera left and right. And which definitely adds another layer of like, yeah, this isn't the greatest, to kind of see where you need to go. So, but yeah, the re-release added right analog stick camera controls as well. So I would say like currently, if you were in the mood and wanted to play Gex, like the re-release it is fairly bare bones overall on features, but they did really make the controls a lot better and added widescreen. And so that's mostly what I've been playing it on. But they do retain the original graphics. Like the original graphics are not touched. Like so it's very much that, So but yeah, no, it definitely is a funny game. I will say that the way it works is you go into these TV sets around the hub world, and then you go into these different worlds. So one's like a haunted house, one's like kind of a Looney Tunes spinoff, like with fake Elmer Fudd's walking around shooting like tune bullets at you, and so definitely very tied to like this whole like TV movie pop culture thing. While Gex is ultimately hunting down TV remotes, like that's his parallel to the Mario stars you would find in Mario 64. So but PJ, have you played much of Gex too?
So before this, no. My much more of my experience comes from the original Gex on the 3DO. That before this, I did obviously dive into Gex 2, but yeah, I was one of the idiots who bought a 3DO. I think there's one big point you may have missed. He's not only a gecko, he's a gecko with attitude, Jeff. I'll send
That he is. That I would agree with that.
that is the era of video game. Everything had to have an attitude in your face, 90s style. Um, the original one I enjoyed very much, as you mentioned. Yeah, 2D side scroller. Came out in 95. What's odd about that I shouldn't say odd. What's weird about that is that game came out in 95, and then in 99, Gex 2 came out. Also in 99, you know what other famous gecko came out? The Gecko. So that was a little fun fact there about 1999 was the year of the gecko, apparently.
Yeah.
No, with this game, going back to it, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's a fairly good platformer from this time frame. Didn't have anything really bad to say about it. Yes, I agree with you. The barking got to be a little too much for me. Um, yeah, Dana Gould's a fairly funny guy. I don't have any particular issue with him. But after this, it's like, yeah, you know what? I could go without hearing him talk for the next year or so. But no, it's a good game. Definitely, the re-release is where it's at. I'd definitely play this one. I know we say that about every game we play, but it is true. This is a decent game to go back to, especially if you like platformers.
Yeah, and I think one thing I would add, like, we've talked about Dana Gould a bit, but what I thought was interesting, and I didn't realize this until the re-release, and then there was actually some squawking on the internet on the original release of the re-release because the re-release only had Dana Gould, and I guess in the UK they had Danny John Jules actually voice Gex there, and then in Australia they had comedian Leslie Grantham voiced Gex, and each of those guys provides a very different voice and joke experience from Dana. So like people in the UK are like, when the re-release first came out with just Dana, they're like, this isn't my Gex. Like, this isn't who So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I've dabbled just a tiny bit in both versions to see like, what it's like. And it is very different. Like Dana Gould Dana Gould is still my Gex, if you will, but like,
Right.
but I get it. Like they provide very unique experiences. The other thing I was going to mention too, which I don't know if you had seen, PJ, but so they also made an N64 port of this game. It was the only Gex to release on the N64. And, just not to get too in the weeds on the technical situations with N64 versus PS1, but PS1's big thing is like all the games are on CDs and there's more storage space, I think it was up to 700 megabytes per disc. And, back in the day, like, the cartridges on N64 were quite a bit smaller. So they had to cut all but 200 lines of voice from Dana Gould for this release on the N64. And because of that, additionally, they cut 3 levels from it, but then, and all the cutscenes were cut as well. But then weirdly, they added a different level that was all underwater that's exclusive to the N64 port. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting situation.
Yeah, that is very odd.
And then finally, like, it's funny. I mean, I'm very focused here on the PS1 game, but one thing I just found out the other day too, because we'll probably talk a little bit later. I've been digging into some Game Boy and Game Boy Color games recently, and there was a Game Boy Color version of this game that came out, and it's a side scroller, as you may expect with the Game Boy Color technology, but oh my goodness, do they try to stay like right in line with the PS1 game? Like, you walk around an overworld where there are TV sets to dive into new levels, and the levels are exactly the same levels with the exact same objectives as the PS1 game, almost to a T. Like it, and I've played a tiny bit of it. I don't have much to say. It does seem pretty hard, but as some old school Game Boy games would be. But I really applaud them for being like, yeah, we're gonna take this full 3D experience from PS1 and try to like build it as a side scroller, like verbatim, and throw it on a handheld at the time. Like I was like, man, that's pretty ambitious, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And it probably goes without saying there's no voice lines, in the Game Boy version. So no Dana Gould, unfortunately. But I will say I've actually, like, when I first got into this recently, I was really having at first I was like, okay, this is a very antiquated game still at this point. Like, definitely at first I was like, yep, okay, I'm gonna play this for an hour and then, just kind of refresh my memory. And I'm not gonna lie, I've actually dug pretty deep. I think I got like 7 or 8 hours clocked on the re-release already, and
Damn.
it's kind of like grown on me. Like I'm like, I know it's not perfect by any stretch, but like it actually is like really fun. Like again, I think the re-release is a way to go with the better controls and widescreen, but like it's actually a very fun game. Like I actually now kind of am even more so like, oh yeah, okay, this is why my brother Brian and I liked it so much. Like, and as kids, I mean, again, like I'm not gonna do an English accent here, impression, but like I mean, even as kids, like you throw a couple Ace Ventura and Austin Powers quotes out there while you're running around smacking things with the gecko tail, and like you're pretty set. Like we little kid Jeff and Brian were happy, playing this. So, um, but yeah, I mean, again, I think I would, like I said, if you're playing the re-release now, like I would actually give it a shot. Like if you're into just trying something, from back in the day. Really enjoyed it. And any other thoughts, PJ?
No. Yeah, I agree with you. I'd back you up on it is a good enough platform game to continue playing or reach out and play it if you haven't. Um, yeah, like you said, yeah, the worst thing about it is repeat barking. Okay, come on. It's a game from before 2000. There's games that have come out in the last 10 years that still have that problem. So,
Yeah.
no, I would definitely have this as a recommend.
The last thing I would probably just say about it too is that it again, you mentioned the first game, which again, I will say, just side note, Gex 1 is a very good 2D side scroller. Like it's a very, very good 2D side scroller.
Agree, yeah.
And Gex 2, again, we said enough. There was a third game, Gex 3 Deep Cover Gecko, that came out a year after Gex 2. It very
zero experience with that.
Yeah, I've definitely played it. It definitely uses the same engine, if you will, as Gex 2. They added, it's kind of this same structure of sorts. They really lean into this whole thing where Gex is like a secret agent, a la James Bond, and they add a female sidekick named Agent Extra, who is played by a Playboy model, and they just added they added additional levels with like vehicles and things. Like there's a snowboarding level and like other stuff like that. Just like, kind of novelty add-ons. Like nothing crazy.
Agree. Again, pushing that in your face 90s bullshit stuff. Yeah.
Yep. So, but yeah, I mean, Gex 3's not bad. I mean, I won't lie. I might go and play it after I beat Gex 2 here soon.
I mean, hey, you got it, right? Why?
Yeah. So, but anyway, so yeah, but yeah, that's Gex 2. So I would recommend it. Especially, like I said, I definitely would recommend the limited run games release recently of the trilogy, but just so you can try all three of them. But yeah, so
yeah.
PJ, anyway, moving on, man. What are you playing these days?
I have been playing 2 games predominantly. I think last time we talked about Last of Us, I've kind of put that on the shelf because the wife is busy schedule. So I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 5 to gear up for Delta coming out later this year, and I've been playing some PGA 2K25. What about you?
Well, first I gotta ask, for PGA 2K25, are you playing the Shooter McGavin?
No, I am not. Yeah, I just play a little bit online. I'm not good enough to play against anybody.
I saw that game when it was coming out. I think like the pre-order bonus was because Happy Gilmore 2 just came out like on Netflix, and they did a pre-order where you can unlock Shooter McGavin as an actual golfer to play as. So I was just curious if if you and also if he had anybody standing in the background of the course yelling, calling you a jackass when you were.
That would be I would pay an extra $10 for that for sure.
A really quick question: how's Metal Gear 5 going for you? How's it holding up right now?
So I originally liked that game when it first came out. It has its flaws, but I will say I do still enjoy playing that game. I'm hoping that there's a lot more to do in Delta, but it's still a good series. I know that that's not your favorite game of the series. It's not my favorite game of the series, but it's up there for me.
Yeah, I mean, you know me. I think Metal Gear 5's gameplay is absolutely phenomenal. I just really don't like the story because I think, but you know, Metal Gear 1 through 4 are my jams, and I kind of pretend that nothing else exists outside of those. So, but nice. Yeah. So I am playing a couple things right now. Tony Hawk, I talked about last time, is kind of on the back burner a little bit, not in a bad way. Loving it still. But I got this little game for Switch 2 that came out called Donkey Kong Bonanza. Man, holy smokes, like what a game. Like I'm I would guess I'm probably about a third of the way through this game, and it's just masterpiece already. Like I'm just blown away. It's made by the same team that made Super Mario Odyssey, which I'll brag a little bit. You know this. I'm very proud to say Mario Odyssey on the Switch. I got all 999 moons. I 100%ed everything you can possibly do in that game. So, and again, the same team making Donkey Kong. I was very excited to dive into this anyway. And my goodness, like it is.
So they're making Donkey Kong games still, where that's just you run up ladders and jump over barrels and stuff.
I mean, technically, there are aspects of that in this game.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
This game actually weirdly has more in common. It's almost like a mixture of a 3D Mario platformer with Red Faction, if you can believe that. Where
from what I've heard, yes, I can.
Yeah, I was telling you earlier, like I literally was in this like very linear cave and like had to get somewhere, and there's a lot of platforming, and I just made a decision to just start punching a tunnel through the walls to get to the objective instead, and it was kind of crazy. Like you can do that.
Wait, yeah, exactly. And in a Donkey Kong game, that is absolutely crazy that is an option to do.
And I gotta give Nintendo like crazy credit. I mean, Nintendo's Nintendo. They're where they are for a reason. They are just a top-notch video game organization. They are very much the like cream of the crop. Every game that comes out, you're expecting nothing but perfection almost. And but what's crazy, I was actually watching a video the other day about Donkey Kong, and they were saying how it's just cool how they go about making games. So like Donkey Kong was not where a couple guys sat there and said, all right, we're making a Donkey Kong game for the Switch 2. They actually just had a small team that was experimenting with things, and they showed it on the video. They made a Goomba with boxing gloves, and we're just like experimenting with this like destruction tech to like, and they're like, this is actually kind of fun. Like, what could we use this for to make a game? And then I guess somebody in the team's like, what if Donkey Kong was punching through things? And they're like, well, what if we made that into a full like 3D Donkey Kong game where that is the main, kind of gameplay, idea. And it's just cool how it started off as a Goomba with boxing gloves, just experimenting, and they built a game around it, like not saying, yeah, we're making a Donkey Kong game, go figure that out,
Right.
So I think that just that approach is why they're so good. I think, I think other studios are like, we're making a Tomb Raider game. I don't know how it's going to look, but that's what we're making. And like,
yeah, we'll figure it out as we go along. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've been playing that, and then, not so much playing, but, I'm eagerly awaiting my delivery. I, just ordered a Mod Retro Chromatic, which is a Game Boy Color clone, if you will. And yeah, PJ, I know I talked a little bit about it, but with you, but yeah, man, I'm like very excited. So this thing has the screen is, I will say this thing's been out for like 9 months. Like it's not like brand new, but the original first editions were released and then they sold out, and now they just decided to like make more inventory and permanently have it for sale now. Like they weren't sure like where this was going to go after the first edition, but now they are. And not to get too in the weeds, I won't get in the weeds on the device because anybody can go look it up online, but it is just a FPGA Game Boy, in Game Boy Color. You use real cartridges. It actually doesn't have like a micro SD slot. It doesn't have any of that stuff. Like it takes AAA or AA batteries, like they do have a rechargeable battery pack too. But the thing I love about it, and this is what I wanted to talk about for a minute, which we haven't got to talk about this completely, is I love the way that that company Mod Retro is like approaching what they're doing. So, and I'll build on that. So like the chromatic is built with a magnesium body. The screen is sapphire glass. Like they have a video somewhere where they ran it over with a car and it still functions like after. And the whole mindset, there's like two things. I've Lucky Palmer, who created Oculus back in the day. He's the founder and CEO of Mod Retro, and his whole thing is like, I listened to a podcast with him recently, and he said like how their goal with this device and future devices they're going to make is creating a modern version of the thing that you remember as a kid, and like adding just enough modern sensibilities to it that like it still resonates with you. Like if you go back and play a Game Boy Color right now, like the OG, like it is a very dim screen. It's washed out. Like it doesn't, like now you pick it up, you're like, okay, I remember this. It's not as great as my kid brain remembers this, but that's what they're trying to do, is like add enough of that to it where it still has modern sensibilities. But what I really like too is like they're like, this should be a tank. Like you don't need a case, you don't need a screen protector. Throw this darn thing in your bag and don't worry about it. Like, you know, carry it around with you, whatever. And I love that. I'm actually getting to the point in my life where I'm getting very sick of like just very cheap tech, or tech that is so darn fragile that you like are buying a screen protector and a case and then a case for your case. And like, it's just getting out, like there's so much of that. And I'm like, I kind of love that idea. And so building on that, the company has talked about now the next official product they're making is called the M64. They're making a Nintendo 64 clone next, which
nice.
Is actually on their website. They don't have like much details yet, but it will be going for pre-order soon. And similar, right? I mean, the whole same idea. And then the last thing that is not like official, but they've talked about quite a bit, is a little bit, I should say, is Lucky Palmer was talking about the other day, is they it looks like they're going to potentially make a new CRT TV. And which they talk a lot about how like modern emulators and even just re-releases of old games, like you just see the pixels and they're blocky and stuff. But the thing that people don't realize is like that's not how they were meant to be seen. Like they were meant to be, there's almost like this blurring of those pixels in between the scan lines and stuff on old CRT TVs that like is lost on HD TVs now. And so yeah, it's kind of cool. They have the chromatic, and then they're going to do an N64 clone, and then potentially a CRT TV is kind of what their roadmap, it seems like, looks like. And I'm kind of all down for it. I'm like, let's go. Just going to help me play some more classic games for the podcast ultimately, which will be great.
Exactly.
But anyway, so I'll get off my soapbox now. You can probably tell PJ that I'm pretty excited for that to arrive.
I would be too, dude. I would be too. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, cool. All right. Well, I think that kind of brings us to the end. And I think we're still kind of working through what our next games will be. So I don't really have a good tease today, but we will have something really good cooking up for you next. Anyway, yeah, if you have any ideas on games you'd like to see us cover, or just any feedback at all, go ahead and email us at cartridgechroniclespod@gmail.com, and then subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. And yeah, we'll talk to you all next time. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
It's tail time!